Hey everyone, this is the second video where I'm going to show you today how to think about your goals and set up your game and then get started in setting up a tile map and your sprite. So last video I talked about my mental health issues, things that I like about myself, things that I don't like about myself and I want to change, and who's affected by my actions. Now I'm going to think about using that to set up my game. So what I figured out is that I have issues with anxiety because I want to do too much and help too many people. And so that's what my focus is going to be for this video game. Instead of like having me be my own sprite, I just did a quick little quiz on my spirit animal and found out that my spirit animal is a deer. So the hero of my video game is going to be the deer. And then since that's my hero, I figured I should have an enemy that is a real enemy of a deer. So that's going to be a bear. And then the goal of my game, I decided, is that I'm going to have two goals. One, I feel like deers have a lot of anxiety because they have to eat like 10% of, like, I feel like deer are always eating because they have to eat like 10% of the food. So every day. So I'm going to have my deer. I'm going to have a goal be that the deer has to eat all of the food that's in the map before time runs out. It's going to be one goal. And then the second goal is also going to be then at the end of it, it has to defeat the bear so that it can then see its friend, which is a dog, because I have a dog and I love my dog and my dog makes me happy. So there you go. Okay, I'm going to go into make code and kind of get started with this. So these blocks that I have here are blocks that I'm going to be using today to kind of show you how to get the game going. But I'm also going to be using the search bar a lot and using the sidebar here to show you where those blocks are. The search is really, really useful because you don't have to go and like scroll through all of these to find what you want. You could just search for key terms. Like say, for instance, I want to find the camera, and then I find the block. It filters the blocks that you need, and then I find the one that I want, and I stick it in there. Okay, so first thing I need to do is I'm going to create my sprite. I'm going to then create my background and my tile map, and then I'm going to make my sprite move. That's kind of the goal for right now. So first thing I'm going to do is I guess I don't need to search. This one I'm just going to go to Sprite. This block right here you're going to be using a lot. So you're just going to drag this block and drop it in underneath the onStart. And then a little tip that I like to do is I like to name my sprites based on what they are. So I named my sprite deer, which is a variable. So my variable is deer, and then I have to set what kind of sprite it is. The default is to do my sprite, and if you want to keep that, that's fine. Just remember that my sprite is your main player for this. And then since it's a variable, what happens is whenever you want the sprite to do something, you have to make sure you say, this is a sprite that I want to do this thing, which I'll show you in a minute what that means. Okay, so I'm going to set my sprite to be a player because that's what my deer is. And then here is where I would then click on this to then draw and make my sprite. But I'm actually going to show you the one that I've already made that I'm very proud of. So here is my sprite, and that is my deer. And then a little hint is down here, you're going to want to name it. So I named it deer, and then what happens is now in my assets is the deer that I have. So it kind of keeps your life easy. Okay, so I got my deer. Now I'm going to set my background image for this. So to do that, you can go into scenes, and it's one of the first ones right there. So set background image 2, and then I'm just going to drag it in there. A same concept where you could draw your background. For this, I ended up just choosing one because I'm not about to draw that. Okay, so there is my background image. I'm going to drag that tile that I have created there. And then the next thing I want to do is I want to create what's called a tile map. A tile map is going to be really useful if you're wanting to make a platform game like I have. Think like Mario, where you have like the different platforms that the sprite has to walk onto, and then it has to do all this stuff on these platforms until it gets to the very end where you're either battling something or it has to cross something to win. So I'm going to make a tile map. Well, I already made a tile map, but I'm going to show you how I made it. All you got to do with this is that you find whatever tiles that you like, that you want to be like the platform that your sprite goes on. And I just use these little pebbles here. And I put those down. Think about when you're doing this is that you need to make it so that it's attainable to get to the end. You can't make it too hard or else no one's going to want to play your game. And then once you have your platform set up, you then need to make them walls. And to do that, you click on this little button right here, and it makes whatever tiles you want to be a wall red. And what that does is that it just makes it so that your sprite will walk on it. If not, it'll just be there, but you will like walk over it. You can't walk on top of it. So it's a wall. I set up a few other little tiles here for me for later on. The green is where I'm going to have the food be later that the deer has to collect. And then the brown right here, this is where the bear is going to pop up before the deer can win. And then the blue is where Dipper, my dog, is going to pop up at the end, and that will be the end of the match or at the end of the level. I have these red in here. I may or may not keep them. Those will be later if I have time to show you. I'm just going to create like a bird or something that tries to attack the deer to give more anxiety, cause more anxiety. So, all right, so I have my tile map set up, and now that's all good to go. Over here, if you refresh, it shows you what it's doing. And notice I can't move the deer yet because I haven't told it to move. And you can't see the tile map because the tile map probably is like down here somewhere. So I need to make it so my deer can get to that. So that's what I'm going to do next. Okay, so I'm going to make it so that my deer can move and that we follow the deer. To do that, you're going to want to just search here, move. And you're going to grab this block, move my sprite with buttons, and set it down there. Now, again, you need to pay attention to what the name of your sprite is. As you can tell, a little thing pops up and says, you don't have anything named my sprite yet. So for me, I need to change this to deer. And then if you click on this little plus, it lets you specify what kind of movement you want your deer to do. So right now it has it so that if I use the left, right, up and down, my deer moves all directions. However, I only want to use the buttons left and right to move my deer, and then I'm going to press button A, and that's going to cause my deer to jump. So to do that, I'm going to pull that block back in here. I'm just going to change my velocity of X, so my X velocity will work, but my Y, I change that to 0 so that if I do press the up and down buttons, it doesn't move at all. So that's good, cool. All right, now the next thing I want to do is notice some of my deer here is that if I keep going straight, I go all the way down, the deer kind of goes off the screen. So what I want to do to say so that the deer stays on the screen is I want to have a camera follow my deer. So I'm just going to search for camera. And right here it says camera follow sprite, my sprite. I'm going to stick that in there. And then, of course, instead of my sprite, I'm going to keep it so that it says deer because that's my variable is deer. All right, so now when I have my sprite move, there you go. It's hard to see it, but now you can kind of see it. And there's my platforms. So now when I move my sprite, it is staying kind of in the middle, and then everything else is moving around it. So the camera is following the sprite. All right, sweet. Let's see here. Now, the next thing I want to do is I'll come back to, I have to set the deer's acceleration, which I'll show you why in a second. And okay, so now the next thing I want to do is when I press button A is I want to get the deer to jump. So to do that, that is on controller here, and it's the first one or the second one on button A. So when I press button A, my deer is going to jump. So to do that, what jumping is your velocity. And so I'm going to set the velocity of the deer to be, the X is going to be 0 because we don't want it to move X direction. We want it to move Y direction. So I'm going to change my Y to be -200. Now, why negative? Because on your XY coordinate for make code here, let me full screen this. This is your X direction, and this is positive X. This way is actually positive Y, which is what we're not used to. We're used to positive Y being this way, but this is positive Y. So now if I want my deer to jump up, that means it's traveling in the negative direction for y, because this is positive. So therefore this way is negative. So that's why it's negative 200 there. Okay. All right, so I now have it so that when I press button A, the deer in theory should jump. So let's see if I do that. If when I do that, that happens. Press A and it jumps. Okay, so it did jump, but notice that it just stays up there. The reason why that is that I want to create almost create gravity. And so to do that, you have to set the acceleration of the deer. So you can do that by going here into Sprites, and then you would do the set this block right here, set my sprite X to 0. You would take that and then drag it in there into your on start. And of course, again, you have to change your variable to be whatever sprite you want it to do. And then instead of X, I'm going to click on this and I'm going to change that to acceleration of Y and change that number to be 355. And you can play with that to see what happens if you made that bigger or smaller. Okay, so now let me refresh. Now when I press A, which is the space bar, okay, it has gravity and it comes back down. Okay, so now the next thing I want to fix is when I'm moving along here, is I can do it right now. The way it's set up is that you could do like a double or triple jump, where if you just keep pressing A, notice it just keeps going up. And I feel like that's cheating. So I want to fix that. So to do that, I need to create a logic block where it says that if the velocity of my deer is at 0, then it's going to change that. So that means that if like my deer's velocity is going like it is now, it won't let me click A again. All right, so to do that, I'm going to go here into logic, and there's a few steps for that. I'm going to grab this if block here, and I'm going to set it underneath the on A pressed, and then I'll set my block to set deer's velocity to inside of that. Now, what is it that I want to be true is I need to go here into logic, and I have to grab one of these equal blocks here. I'm going to drag that in, and then I want to go into my sprites and do, I think I want this block here, and to put it there. So I want if the deer's velocity of y equals 0. So if my deer is not jumping, then it will jump, is what that block is saying. So let's see if that works. All right, so I jump. I try to do a double jump, and notice it doesn't let me do a double jump. It does a single jump, so that's good. Okay, cool. So now I have created my game, kind of sort of, with my platform, where my deer is able to get through everything and get to the end. Notice I don't have a win. I don't have loss yet. All I have created is the platform and the deer able to move. So next step is going to be making it so that when it gets down here into this black part, this is like the pit, and the deer dies. And then I'm going to make it also then so that if it reaches the end, that blue tile right there, it is a win. So that's what I'll do in the next video.